Hi, beautiful souls, and welcome back to this week's episode of Soul Conversation. And today I have a guest all the way from Florida and hopefully a little bit warmer weather than we have
Yeah.
here in Stockholm. So, Peter Mac. Okay, let me see. I'm going to pronounce your name now. Peter McLaughlin.
McLaughlin. Perfect. Yes.
McLaughlin.
Yes, you got it.
McLaughlin. Welcome to the
Thank you.
conversation.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And I mean, we're going to go into a little bit about your story, which I find very interesting and intriguing. But if you would like to start to just, present yourself a little bit from who Peter is today. Let's start
Okay.
there.
All right. All right. So I would say if I fast forwarded through the first 41 years of my life, the current path I'm on began when I was volunteering to be a firefighter, EMT, in my town. I was living in Connecticut at the time. And the first day of volunteering with the medical exam, they said, "Oh, wow, you're in really good shape for your age. Come on back tomorrow and give blood." I came back the next day, I gave blood. And then all of a sudden, all these alarm bells went off. I had all of these messages on my phone.
Yeah.
I called the doctor's office back and they said, "We think that you have both Lyme disease and a rare form of leukemia." And I immediately went into denial. I said, "That's not possible. Let me come back and give blood again." So I came back, do the test again. They came up with the same results.
Yeah.
And I asked how long they thought I had to live. And they said, maybe 10 years. I had 3 very small children at the time. I went into this place of anger and grief and confusion and frustration. And I started an odyssey. Homer wrote the Odyssey with Odysseus that goes on to all these. That's what it has felt like.
Yeah.
The beginning part of it was much scarier than maybe about 3 years in. About 3 years in, everything began to shift. And what brought me to hypnotherapy was, as I researched the leukemia in particular, I was brought from the purely physical cause and effect to the power the mind has over the body. And through a series of what seemed at the time like disjointed or separate events, all of a sudden everything gelled in one moment. And I looked at my wife and I said, "I need to be a hypnotist." And she looked back at me and she said, "Yes, you do."
Yeah.
And so that's what actually launched this current path where I've been working with people largely one-on-one for the last 20 years on a variety of issues. I would say what knits it all together is root cause. I'm very interested in the root cause of what people are dealing with, whether it's a physical issue or it's something in their relationship or it's something in even in their business life or even in their sports life. I've worked with professional athletes and I have found the most success and the most interest for me in helping them again find that root cause and resolve it where it lives so that whatever the symptom is either goes away or diminishes.
Yeah. I also love the root cause.
Yeah, right.
I think, let's see what you think, but from my perspective, we're so programmed to just look at the symptoms in everything. Kind of like surface level, kind of dipping your toe in and then, okay, this sounds right. But you're never actually solving the root cause.
Yes, exactly. I totally agree. And the one exception to that I have found, the one exception is when people take their cars to a car mechanic. They're not interested in anything except the root cause. Like they're not interested in the mechanic saying, "Oh, there's smoke coming out of your engine. I installed a fan to blow it away." You've got some weird noise your car's making. Just turn up the radio. No one's interested in that.
No.
Everybody expects the mechanic to trace the symptom back to the root cause, to fix the root cause so the symptom goes away. But when we go to the doctor and it's a physical issue at the doctor, okay, sure, you mend the broken bone, you do the surgery or whatever. But if it's medical, if it's chronic disease, we largely accept that they're just going to palliate it. They're just going to give us drugs.
Yeah.
which I find, and I've always found that interesting. From the, within a year or two of being diagnosed, I started going, wait a minute, why do we accept this with doctors, but we don't accept it with car mechanics?
Yeah, that's a really good. I never heard that before. I will borrow that one.
You what?
I will borrow it from you.
Okay, yeah, please use it freely, widely.
Because I mean, when they told you that you had like around 10 years, was that the case?
Maybe 10 years.
Maybe 10 years.
Yeah, that was 23 years ago.
Do you remember what you felt when you heard that, like the first time before it kind of?
Yeah, when I heard it, when the doctor told me, I think I was already in a kind of state of shock, and I was trying, and I was just thinking, oh well, you just have to be strong or whatever it was, and kind of like it is to be a firefighter, at least for me, that we encounter so many things that are shocking, that are sometimes scary. And the way I found I had to deal with that was just kind of grit my teeth and focus in and just start doing what I was trained to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was almost the same when I heard the news. I just feel like I just kind of focused in and gritted my teeth and just said, oh, okay. All right. Well, are you sure there's nothing else I can do? Who's a specialist I should go see? Like just kind of getting that almost like a stoic or something. And then it was later, and then it went on for months and months and months, where I went through these phases of especially anger. I remember pounding the steering wheel of my car and just shouting inside the car by myself, why?
Yeah.
Why? Which I feel like we're all programmed to ask that question when something akin to a tragedy happens. Why? But I think we're programmed to ask that question because we have the capability to receive the answer. We just don't live in a culture that teaches us how to get the answer to that question.
Yeah.
It sets up more of a victim mentality.
Absolutely.
So even
why me?
Right. Even the word that the medical system, the allopathic conventional medical system uses for us, even that word, patient, it implies what we do. You sit in the waiting room and be patient. And if you're 5 minutes late or 10 minutes late for your appointment, people look at you askance. But if the doctor is an hour late, oh, that's just the way it is, because the doctor's very busy. And you are the patient. You're supposed to be patient. And wait until, and sorry for being on a soapbox here, wait until this person who wears a white, let's face it, it's a butcher's coat. Right? And the stethoscope, that's the uniform. Until that person's ready for you, and in our current system, maybe they spend like 10 minutes with you on a very complex problem.
Yeah.
And I feel the mentality is, you be patient, you wait for the expert to come, the expert will do whatever they can for you, and then you leave. And your job isn't to ask a bunch of questions, because we don't really have time for that. And we're not expecting you really, and this is just my interpretation, I could be totally wrong, but we're not really expecting you to be the general of your own health, and then you employ other people to help you like consultants. No, I feel like it's reversed. Like you're almost like a widget or some kind of machine making your way along an assembly line, and then people bolt things on and they do things to you as you move your way across the assembly line. If we want to wake you, if you're in the hospital and we want to wake you up at 2 a.m. to take your blood pressure, we're going to do that. And I think that's insane. People get better when they sleep.
Yeah.
Why would you wake up somebody who's in the hospital because they're sick at 2 a.m? To me, this is anyway, I'm sorry for getting on my
No, no,
little
no, no.
soapbox.
I'm going to share something about that because I think yeah. The way I remember when my son was 1 year or something like that, he got a lot of like rashes from mosquito bites, like, and I went to the doctor, and I remember I kind of put him on a like an authority figure,
Yes.
that kind of energy from within me,
Yeah.
and he received antibiotics. I remember it was during 1 year, I think 6 times he had antibiotic, whatever you treatment, and I couldn't. Back then I wasn't able to speak my truth. It felt in my whole body, it was like, this is not right.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the root cause. Like everything that I today would never ever accept, and I
Oh,
would,
yes. Yeah.
ask a question and like
Well,
really
it's true.
go
And
to the
if you
bottom.
look at I'm not meaning to beat up on the medical system, but I do believe there's a kind of arrogance in it. And if you look back in history at things that the medical system used to do we really believe that in 100 years we're not going to look back at this time and think the same thing? That some of the things that the medical system was doing, people will say, "Well, why? How is that possible?"
Because
There was bloodletting, and there were
yeah,
putting leeches on people's bodies, and there was a resistance to washing hands. I mean, the man who came up with that idea, the doctor, I think his name was Semmelweis, who came up with the idea of washing hands in Austria, it was so vehemently opposed that they put him in a mental institution where he died.
oh my
And
God.
and just washing hands of medical students when they went from the cadavers over to the obstetrics department, just doing that reduced the number of women who were getting sick and dying in the obstetrics department. But when he brought this up, the entrenched authorities were so threatened by it that they put him in a mental institution.
But
The whole concept of the word quack, you've heard that term quack?
yeah, absolutely.
It comes from the heavy metal mercury, which is like the most toxic heavy metal that we come into contact with. And in German, the word for in English, the other word for mercury is quicksilver. In German, it's quacksilber. And so any person who gave a human being mercury, which they used to do, was called a quack. And you're like, wow, there's so many treatments for cancer that actually cause cancer. And I'm not a doctor. Please don't anyone take any advice from me. But these are the things that were coming into my mind in this 3-year period between the time I got diagnosed, when they said, we don't know what causes this, we don't know how to cure it, and when I was trained as a hypnotherapist. But that 3-year period was really this up and down emotional roller coaster. I was researching all kinds of things. I was learning things like this. And I was finding a way to not only save my life, but to make sense of everything. Because I think that's a big piece, that question, why?
Yeah.
Why, if somebody that you love dearly dies, the first question people ask, why? Why did this happen? Or you lose your job, or some other issue befalls you. It's so common to ask why. And I really feel like when you can answer that question, that a calm comes over you.
Yeah.
You move out of the constant fight or flight state. You move into that rest and digest, which is essential for healing. It's essential for working through a problem even.
Yeah.
So
I'm just going
a
to
long
check
way of
the
describing to
sound.
you what my story is.
No. I love it. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to, because there's some kind of echo. Not echo, but it's just something with the sound. Let me just double check here. Audio. No, I think it's fine. It was just something I heard. But and I think with the words when you were explaining, like you said, quicksilver. That's what it's how you pronounce it in Swedish, and patient. It's the same in Swedish. You just pronounce it, which is interesting.
Right?
Yes, because I love this kind of synchronicities and words like belief. There's lie in belief, for example.
Along those lines, the conventional medical authorities that we go to in the West, the MDs, medical doctor, they are allopathic physicians. That's another word for them, allopathic or allopathy. And the philosophy that undergirds allopathy is the alleviation of symptoms. It's not root cause.
No.
The very philosophy is geared around the alleviation of symptoms. And so for someone like me who had a chronic disease, I wasn't interested in alleviating the symptoms. I was interested in finding the root cause. And that has informed the way that I work with other people.
Yeah.
So with my clients, I'm focused on helping them get to root cause rather than an alleviation of symptoms, for example, because I believe that when you resolve the root cause, the symptoms naturally either disappear or they get much better.
Exactly.
Because the only way the symptom can exist is its foundation.
Yeah.
The infrastructure of it, if you will, that it owes its life and existence to is the root cause.
It's kind of, I see it a little bit as information, the symptoms. I mean, if you pay attention, if you pay attention.
I agree.
Yeah. And then to be, curious, of course, when you were having these news, of course, I understand that you felt angry. I mean, it's a big thing to receive that. I mean, but would you say, if we then, before we go into a little bit how you work with hypnotherapy and everything, if someone, wants to come to you, do you do, okay, first one thing, do you do it online as well, or is it
both? Both
Good.
In person for people who prefer that, and online. And I would say probably 2/3 to 3/4 of my sessions are remote or online.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going in. We have to talk about that, but I have one more thing about Eastern medicine, or the more. Do you say natural? No, what do you say in English? When it is herb based, or from the nature.
There are several words. So there's a profession of doctors called naturopathic physicians. So we would use that word. We would use holistic, would be another term.
Yeah. Would you say that's more focused on the root cause?
I would definitely say that naturopathy is for sure more focused on root cause than allopathy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
When it comes to like traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurveda, I do think that those two have more of a focus on root cause than allopathy does. I don't know as much about Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine. I mean, I know a little bit, and I've done a little bit of that myself, especially early on. But I would say for sure that there's more of a focus, especially with disease, on root cause than you would have with allopathy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was just interested what your thoughts were and your experience as well. So let's go into a little bit about how, if, for example, if I come to you, and how do you kind of work with your clients, for the ones who, are totally new in.
Yeah. So if I were to give you an overview, I would say the progression begins with talking to the person that's sitting in front of me, getting to know them.
Yeah.
In particular, what I'm interested in is our patterns.
Mm.
And as a hypnotist, I've been training myself, I would say, to hear the words that people use.
Yeah.
Because I know that the subconscious mind is literal. It doesn't understand the negative clause in a sentence. So if you said to your children, don't bring your dirty shoes into the house, the subconscious mind doesn't process the don't. It just creates an image or maybe even a sound of dirty shoes going in the house.
Yeah.
So hearing how people speak and then hearing what are the recurring patterns of things that happen to them in their lives is very important, along with understanding what are some of the worst traumas that they've suffered, because it is likely that those traumas are still existing. They're still exerting their impact on the person, because the subconscious mind also has no concept of time. Something that happened 40 years ago, if it hasn't been healed, to the subconscious, it's a clear and present danger in the now.
Yeah.
And that's when we say that somebody gets triggered. They get triggered because you used a word or a tone of voice or a color or some kind of incident. All that means is an old trauma got activated.
Mm.
And in our culture, there's been a big effort over the last 10 years to protect people from trigger words, or in a movie, they'll say, well, there are flashing lights in the movie.
Oh, yes. Yes. All the time.
Rather than putting the focus on, let's help these people heal from whatever trauma they suffered in the past.
Yeah.
Because you can't protect people from all triggers. Any hypnotist could tell you, you could purposely set up a trigger so that when you see the color yellow, you feel a sense of love.
Mm.
When you hear the word whistle, I'm just making this all up, you can't remember your name. Like, you just watch stage hypnotism and you can understand how triggers can be created like this. So again, my focus on the root cause would be, let's help people heal the root cause so that when they hear the word whistle, they don't get triggered into a negative state.
Mm. I love that.
So
and
anyway,
then,
that would be the first. That would be the first step, and then the next thing that I do is based around the fact that your body is a feedback mechanism.
Mm.
You know when you feel good because you feel good. You know when you like somebody because your body tells you through feeling that this person is comfortable, they're safe, they understand me. And on the other end of the spectrum, you know when you're sick because you feel sick. You know when you're not feeling safe walking down a street at night and it's dark and you hear footsteps behind you because your body tells you.
Mm.
So with that as the sort of philosophical foundation, I have people use what's kind of known as an ideomotor tool. So this is a pendulum.
Yeah.
And it's just a weighted object at the end of, in this case, a chain, but it could be a string. And that serves as an amplifier of what your body's already telling you.
Mm.
So having the client hold the pendulum, I teach them how to use this. And the first thing we do is we establish a yes and a no. So if you hold a pendulum like that, and your intention isn't to move your hand or anything, you just hold the pendulum and you look at the weighted part and you just think or say out loud, show me yes, show me yes, show me yes, 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 yes. The pendulum will begin to move in a particular direction. So it might move, say, clockwise, which is what it does for me. Other people, it might move counterclockwise or side to side or back and forth or diagonal or something like that. We do the same thing for no. We get a separate movement. And then we have, I just say to the client, ask a question you already know the answer to and see if it's working. So, is my body currently in the seated position? Am I 700 feet tall? I should get a yes to the first and a no to the second. If that's all correct, we've now established communication with their subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind knows everything about the traumas that have happened in the past. They know what it's related to. So let's say the person has a fear of speaking in public, which is a major fear.
Yeah.
So a question I would have the client ask while they're holding the pendulum is, Is this fear of speaking in public related to a past trauma? And let's say we get a yes. And then I'll say, is this a trauma that occurred for the first time earlier in your present life? And just to make this really interesting, let's say they get a no to that. So then say, did it happen in a past lifetime? Yes. And we keep following that until we get to exactly where and when this happened. And then we get a baseline of intensity. So it's just a simple 0 to 10. Using the pendulum, we can determine, what number is this between 0 and 10? 10 being, really intense and 0 being nothing. And if it's a 7, 8, 9, or 10, we're going to work on that. And in the example I gave you, we're going to work on the past lifetime. And then we're going to clear that. And once we clear it, based on whatever work we're doing, which could be hypnosis, it could involve neuro-linguistic programming, it could involve something called havening, which is a very fast technique to reverse a trauma. Once we've done that, we go back to the pendulum. Now what is it? If it's a 0, 1, or 2, we're done. If it's any higher than a 2, we got to keep working on it until we get it down to at a minimum of 2. And we systematically begin neutralizing or healing traumas from this person's past, the root cause.
Yeah.
And then I also work on, let's say, the positive side of the same coin, which would be more traditional hypnotherapy. And that would be putting seeds, like you put seeds in a garden, put seeds in the mind for the desired outcome.
Yeah.
As well as coaching. So now I really understand this. I start to understand this person really well because I've been doing this long enough that there will be some similarities between them and other people who struggled with the exact same issue. Plus, I know their story.
Yeah.
At this point, pretty well. And we also can get feedback from their subconscious mind in another way. So in a spiritual sense, we can have that person meet with their spirit guide. We can have them meet with deceased relatives. And they can receive information, communication from these sources. And that begins to fit into this mosaic of the new way forward versus the old unconscious habitual way that was bringing them the results they didn't want.
Wow. Yeah. I love the part you also shared now that you're doing the more traditional part, but also all these questions, but also with the pendulum. Yeah.
I try to simplify everything primarily for myself because people come in with complex issues. And the more I can simplify it, the easier it is and faster it is for me to understand it. And once I understand it, it's faster to understand what we need to do to resolve it.
Yeah.
And I do think of, that Eastern symbol of the yin and the yang, the circle with the white and the black, and then there's a little black dot on the white and a little white dot on the black.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine two sides. The one side is what is holding you back? What's the obstacle preventing you from getting where you want to go? Because I really believe that all of us are eternal spirits. We are all children of God. We are all already magnificent.
We are.
And because of things that happen to us and ideas and beliefs that we make up about ourselves and other people in the world, we start, in order to attempt to protect ourselves, we start shutting down, we start closing things off. And that brilliant light inside of us begins to dim. And when we heal those struggles and the pain and the ideas and beliefs that go along with them, it's like the window has been cleaned of the soot and now the light can shine.
Yeah.
And there are things that one can do to emphasize all of that. And that would be a lot of the things about hypnotic suggestion and affirmations on the other side of the coin, if you will. You can do something called a future pace, where in hypnosis, you take somebody into the future where they're already in the state they want to be in. Could be a relationship. It could be a physical state. It could have to do with their finances or their business. So they can feel, because again, the body's a feedback mechanism. They can feel what it's like to be there, because maybe they've never been there in this life.
Yeah.
You can also take them into a past life where they were in that state. And then ask them, what does it feel like in your body? And they'll say, oh my God, my body feels so much lighter. I feel like I'm standing taller. I feel like my mind is calmer and quieter. It's easier for me to focus. I feel a kind of joy inside. And once you've felt that, you know in the future when you're feeling that way.
Yeah.
It kind of tells you you're on the right path. And then there can be other insights as to how to get from where they currently are to that state.
Love it. It's I have one question, because when you shared, we're not going into all what I hear from your story when we had our pre-call, that you have had many different identities. I'm thinking about firefighter. I'm also thinking of before you were sick, and then something shifted when you received these news, but also the journey afterwards, and
for sure.
who you are today, and the acting part, being an actor. So what would you say, Peter, in all these different identities, is there something that is, how can you say? I wouldn't say root cause, more
like a commonality between them?
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think there is.
Being Peter, I mean, being you. Being you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that every person, every human, in addition to being magnificent, I think we all bring very specific gifts with us. It's like if you're going to take a long journey somewhere, you can't bring everything in your house. You just bring the things that are important for that trip. If you're coming to Florida, you're going to bring summer clothes. And if you go to Stockholm, you're going to bring winter clothes and things that you might use for the things that you imagine doing while you're there. And it's the same thing when we're incarnating to this planet, to this earth. We bring specific gifts, specific to us, that we intend as spirits to use on this journey. Yeah. And the other way I think about this is in terms of strengths and weaknesses. It's easy for me to understand what I'm not good at. It's also easy for me to understand at this stage in my life what I am good at. And I used to have this belief that I should spend a lot of time getting better at the things that I'm not good at. And then I don't know, I listened to somebody talking once, and they said how we really should be emphasizing our strengths. That's what we came here to use. So the thing that would knit these different aspects together, I think, would be communication, performance, the sort of the thing about the actor. And if you think about how, let's say, a play works, is that it's a very specific moment in time. You know, if you want to go out to dinner, there's a very large moment in time in a number of days. But with a play, it only runs for a specific amount of time. And each night, it starts at a very specific time and it ends at a very specific time. And it's the same thing for a firefighter. When there's a motor vehicle accident, when there's a structure fire, when there's a hazmat incident, you can't say, I'll be there in 15 minutes. You have to go, like, right away. Yeah. And then it has a very specific beginning, middle, and end. And everyone's focus is entirely on what's happening. Yeah. And once it's over, everything kind of goes back to normal. It's the same with a play for an actor. And as we were talking about earlier, I believe Shakespeare was correct when he said, all the world is a stage. All the men and women are merely players, that we all have taken on in Carl Jung, the famous, was he Swedish?
Yeah,
Psychologist.
I
Or Swiss. He might have been Swiss. I think he was Swiss.
I think so too.
I think he was Swiss. He said that we all create a persona when we're little. And the persona is based upon our family. It's based upon our culture. It's ultimately based on what we interpret will make us safe and get us love in that environment. But the persona is constructed the way an actor's character is constructed. It's not who the actor is. The actor is portraying something. They're taking on a different persona every time they play a different part.
Yeah.
So I think when I'm working with people and thinking about my own life, that so much of what we think is baked in the cake, well, that's just who I am. That's the way I've always been. A lot of that is not actually true.
No.
It's just what we took on unconsciously and have come to believe that's who I am, rather than I am an eternal spirit. I am a child of God. I am limitless. I have played many parts in the past.
Yeah.
Just like an actor. So these are some of the themes, I would say, that I've noticed going through the various iterations of my life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And what would you say, what do you love about yourself when it comes to your gifts?
Well, I could say what I love doing. I think that's how, again, the body is a feedback mechanism.
Yeah.
And I was mentioning to you earlier that I gave up acting in New York City, which is where we lived when my wife and I met. And I gave up acting when she was pregnant with our first child. And he's now 28. And we did one performance of a play that she wrote when he was, I want to say, about 6. And so I was away from acting for 22 years. She and I just recently, the play just closed 2 weeks ago, produced a Shakespearean play in conjunction with a local theater. And the intention was we were just going to produce it.
Yeah.
And right before Christmas, we got the news, this is 4 weeks before this thing was supposed to start, and Christmas in between, that one of the actors, an actor that had been cast as King Lear, had just been arrested by the police for robbing 2 banks at gunpoint. I'm still almost speechless.
Yeah.
And when that happened, I felt like there was a call, because I knew at this late date, I'm the right age. I can play the part. I haven't acted in 22 years, but I'm being called to do this. And so I found myself back on the stage, and I was terrified because it had been so long.
Yeah.
And yet, being back on the stage, and everybody listening, I'm sure, can relate to some aspect of their life, felt like coming home. I felt like I was home. I felt like I was where I belonged.
Yeah.
And with each performance, it felt more and more real, more and more rich, more and more perfect in that sense. So that's a place where I feel very much at home. And I feel like I'm utilizing gifts that I brought here. I feel that way when I'm doing this work or even talking about it. Because again, to me, there are so many similarities. When you take a person on a hypnotic regression, it's like you're taking them through a movie, or you're taking them through a play where they are the actor.
Yeah.
And they're having these insights and revelations that actors have when they get deep into their character. They begin to understand the character better, what makes that character tick. So I firmly believe that there are connections there. Plus, the other, to me, mind-blowing thing is that when an actor is first working on a new character, when they are analyzing a scene, they have to ask themselves about subtext. So there are words that are going on and something that the two characters, let's say, are ostensibly talking about, but there's a deeper subtext. And the subtext is, what does character A want? What do they want? They may be talking about buying a vacuum cleaner, but what they really want is they want love from their wife. And what does the wife want? She may be saying, I don't want the vacuum cleaner, and what I want him to do is to clean the house on his own because it looks like a mess and I'm overworked. But they may be talking at a different level. And so when it comes to coaching people, particularly around relationships, which is of significant interest to me, is helping people through relationship issues, I can actually speak to them about, all right, you're telling me about a fight you had. Let's talk about that. Tell me what was going on. And then I can come back to them and say, it sounds like the subtext of that fight was this. And what would it be like if you and your partner actually talked about the subtext, about what you both really want, rather than about the things that are basically a stand-in?
The noise.
Yeah. How many times do couples get into a big blow-up fight? It could last days. And when they ask each other, do you remember what started this? They're like, they can't remember. Or if they remember, it was something infinitesimal.
Yeah.
But because it wasn't about the infinitesimal thing, it wasn't about the vacuum cleaner, it was about the subtext. It was about what this person wanted and what this person wanted, and they felt like their needs weren't being met. And so from that perspective as a coach, if you can help people tease that apart and understand what the deeper wants and desires are, you can make it surface. You can get it to the surface where those things can be talked about. So that's another way that, it even surprised me when I thought, wait a second, this really is like acting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is. And I remember, I think it was this spring, my mom and I got into a fight over a bag. It was, of course, not about the bag that I have borrowed, but this was also the first time that it was time to have the deeper, like what you say, the sub. So I was standing there like a tree. I wasn't moving, and she was all over, like her inner child was all over the place. And it's the first time I heard her scream. And and I didn't run in my reaction mode. I was standing there, like, and let her. And I spoke my truth, and she spoke her, and then she calmed down, and she was standing in her stairs in her house, and she was like, and I was like, okay, so now what? What are we doing now? She looked at me, and I remember her hands were kind of like a child, She looked at me and she was like, let's hug. Let's hug each other. And then we started to cry, both of us, of course.
Wow,
like it
that's
was
beautiful.
so intentional. Like so many, I mean, it was intentional in one way, but it was it was intense and emotional. Yeah. But I also knew this wasn't it. And then it's been a journey, step by step to unfold more and more. And now I would say this week, I think we had pretty, like, when it's an uncomfortable conversation, you have to have it. My nervous system was pretty calm, but because we had processed step by step, like micro steps.
Yes.
And afterwards, I was like, wow, there's so much love now, because I have held on to resentment that has nothing to do with her, but to my biological mother, since I'm adopted, and a lot of past life stuff that has nothing to do with her.
Isn't that amazing?
And I was like, oh my God, she's actually supported me in my business, like, for so long, like my whole life, but I haven't really felt it. It's about me. It's not about her. I want to be very clear. This is my triggers. This is my wounds. And I just felt, when you just relax.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And now it's a love that is more mature,
Mm-hmm.
and
Makes sense.
it's like my nervous system, since we have had many great conversations with that, I felt my nervous system was calm and her, so I can feel the co-regulation. I can really feel it between us. It's like this was my biggest resistance, and this is for me tied to money and stuff. Like there's more to it, but I have always known. But I have also been, one dip my toe and then back. I think I shared it with you before as well, like back and forth,
Sure. Yeah.
until now. Like no, it's time now. It's time to, kind of also create a new foundation, I would say.
I would say so. And congratulations to you for moving into a place of discomfort.
Yeah.
In order to change the old way.
Yeah. And it felt scary.
I'm sure it
really
did.
Scary. Even if it has nothing to do with us right now.
Yes.
But the
Yeah.
past stories. Yeah.
I completely understand that.
Yeah.
I completely understand that. And that's my main approach to working with people in relationship issues. Mm-hmm. The conventional way of doing that, and I'm not knocking it, it has value, but the conventional way of doing it is to get the two partners in a room together with a therapist. And I think that has its place. Yeah. My feeling is based on what you said, which is both people are getting triggered by the other, but most of what they're getting triggered by, not all, but most, are things that occurred before they met each other.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that both partners have a responsibility to clean up their own side of the street, because then they bring a different version of themselves back to this relationship.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not trying to suggest that there aren't things between them specifically, like infidelity or something. But even that has roots in the past.
Yeah.
And that to simply put 100% of the focus on the two partners in a room with a therapist, to me, leaves out perhaps the most important elements, the most important wounds that need to be cleaned up. And I feel like that's a little bit of what you were saying, that it was almost like a wounded inner child was running.
And for me as well. For me as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I spoke my truth in a way I actually haven't before. Like it was very real and raw. But like I said to her, this is not now, but it's playing now. I don't know if I said it, but maybe I would do it. Maybe I didn't say it that way, but I was very raw in what I have felt.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about behaviors now, and like I said, patterns.
Yes.
I know the intentions from my end and from her. The only thing we wanted, both of us, that's how I say it. She wants to be accepted and loved for who she is, and the same for me. That's it. But you have a choice. You have a choice to choose love or fear. But I don't, and I think you are with me here, that it's not about bypassing old emotional root causes.
It's healing it and integrating it.
Yeah.
So in that context of an inner child, when you suffer a trauma, the mind fractures. And when you get triggered based on that trauma in the future, guess who comes forward? It's that frozen child from a much earlier time. And when you are able to heal it, you can then integrate that 6-year-old child into the adult. That's a beautiful thing when clients get to that point, and we're able to do that. We're able to dialogue with a younger version of them or a past life self version of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then integrate that frozen energy back into who they are now, so that there's no more battling going on. Or if when the old trigger happens, it's the adult that comes forward in a calm place.
Yeah, because now she was saying stuff that I absolutely would have been a huge trigger before, and now it's kind of just moving through me and out. It doesn't bother me, and for
That's
me,
beautiful.
this is huge. Like this is, and that's also from my perspective. I need to do, like, as a spiritual mentor and guiding people, I need to lead myself first, and then I can guide. Because for me, it's similar. Like, there's similarities what you're doing, what I'm doing, because I truly believe everyone has their own
Yes.
stories, but also how to guide themselves, like how to,
Yes, totally agree with that.
I'm just a tool.
Yeah, sure. I feel that way about myself.
Yeah. So, okay, before we end, I would love to have another conversation with you as well. There's a lot of stuff that I want to go into, but is there, to end this episode, is there anything you want to share, like kind of a final something that's on your mind you want to share with the listeners?
I think it would be how every one of us has felt at different points in our lives, broken, hopeless, in a state of grief, not knowing where to turn, thinking that things are hopeless. And what I want to say is, that's not true. It's not true that none of us is permanently broken. We may have been wounded, probably were. And those wounds can be identified and they can be healed. And not just through what you do, not just through what I do, but there are lots of different ways.
It is.
And it's important to recognize that as long as you're breathing, you have the ability to find, heal, reverse, change, go in a different direction. And that, this is just my view, that everything that happens, including a leukemia and Lyme disease diagnosis on the same day, is happening for your awakening. It's happening for your spiritual advancement. And if you are willing to take on that belief as a philosophy, then when things happen, they don't affect you to the same degree anymore. Kind of like you were saying, you were able to stand there and not have your nervous system totally activated. And when you can be in that state, when you can be in the rest and digest state, the opposite of fight or flight, then your prefrontal cortex comes online and you can see things you couldn't otherwise see. You can think creatively. Your body remains calm. And when your body is calm, it's actually healthy. When your body is in a stress response, it is unhealthy. It is destructive. So I hope that makes sense to you. I hope it makes sense to the listeners, but that's what I would want to leave people with, that perspective.
That's beautiful. And how can they reach you, Peter, the best way?
There would be three ways. So I have two websites. One is my name, petermclaughlin.com.
Yes.
And that one focuses primarily on relationships, helping people with their relationships. The other one is blueskyhypnosis.com. And that's for kind of everything I do.
Yes.
And then my YouTube channel is also blueskyhypnosis.com. And I have 250 plus pieces of content there that you can use free of charge to help you with a variety of issues.
That's beautiful. And I will have the links as well, of course. But thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it. And I love your perspective of, how you look at things as well. It's
Thank you.
always, I love learning new things. And for the listeners, if you have any questions to Peter, you can email them, you can share them with us on social media. But we love to hear questions
Yeah, indeed. Absolutely.
and
Please.
thoughts as well. And I will see you next week.